A year ago, even whispering Super Bowl and New England in the same sentence sounded DMN near delusional. This was supposed to be a rebuild, a slow, painful reset, a team finding itself after the dynasty glow finally faded. And then something shifted, quietly at first, the moment Drake May took control of the offense. Not because of one throw, not because of one game, but because the way the Patriots started operating changed. Around the league, there's been a low hum growing louder by the week. Reports claim executives, scouts, and even defensive coordinators are privately saying the same thing. This version of Drake May doesn't look like a normal young quarterback. Bigger, faster, sharper, more in command than anyone expected this early. The jump from talented rookie to wait, this might be something serious, happened fast, faster than most teams had prepared for. Training camp was the first warning sign. Insiders say May wasn't easing into the role. He was owning it, calling things out, commanding the huddle, playing like the guy everyone else had to follow. By the time preseason wrapped, the locker room already knew who the offense belonged to, and it wasn't up for debate. What really turned heads, though, wasn't the highlights. It was the calm. When pressure came, he didn't rush. When plays broke down, he didn't panic. He slid, reset, and delivered. Defenses that expected chaos got punished for hesitation. That's the kind of behavior that doesn't just win games, it changes how opponents prepare. And this didn't happen in a vacuum. At the same time, Mike Vrabel walked into the building and flipped the temperature instantly. No slogans, no speeches, just standards. Accountability became non-negotiable. Situational football stopped being an afterthought. Practices got louder. Meetings got sharper. Mistakes didn't linger, they got corrected on the spot. Suddenly, this didn't feel like a young team figuring things out. It felt like a team being trained to survive January. That's why the confidence feels different now. Not hope, not nostalgia, confidence. The kind that makes third downs feel manageable. The kind that makes late-game drives feel inevitable. The kind that spreads when the quarterback believes he's the best guy on the field and starts playing like it. So here's the real question nobody wants to ask out loud yet. Are the New England Patriots just ahead of schedule? Or is the league about to realize they misread this entire situation? Because what's forming in New England doesn't look like hype. It looks like a problem. What's happening with Drake May didn't follow the normal timeline. There was no slow climb, no long stretch of learning moments where the team politely waited for things to click. The shift happened almost immediately, and that's what caught people off guard. Early on, the conversation was framed carefully. Talent was obvious, but expectations were tempered. The word potential kept coming up. Then practices started stacking. Film started circulating quietly, and the tone around the league changed. Instead of asking if he could handle it, people started asking how he figured it out so fast. Teammates noticed it first. The ball coming out with more conviction. Reads happening earlier. Less hesitation before throws that most young quarterbacks second-guess. Mistakes didn't spiral into bad drives anymore. They got corrected and forgotten. That's not normal for someone this early into the role. What really separated him wasn't arm strength or athleticism, it was command. He wasn't just executing plays. He was controlling tempo, dictating pace, letting the offense breathe when needed and speeding it up when defenses looked comfortable. That kind of feel usually takes years to develop. Defensive coordinators started adjusting, and that's when the respect became real. Blitz looks that used to rattle him stopped working. Red zone windows that once felt tight suddenly looked surgical. When pressure collapsed the pocket, he didn't bail backward or force panic throws. He slid, reset, fired, over and over again. That calm is contagious. When the quarterback stops flinching, everyone else sharpens up. Receivers run routes with more purpose. Linemen finish blocks knowing the play isn't dead. Coaches trust the call sheet more aggressively. Confidence doesn't come from speeches, it comes from execution stacking up under stress. And here's the part that's quietly changing perception. This isn't happening against soft looks or favorable scripts. It's happening when defenses know what's coming and still can't stop it, when hesitation gets punished, when one wrong step turns into 6 points. Former players on TV have started saying the quiet part out loud. If this team wins at the level it's trending toward, the quarterback conversation changes fast. Not as hype, not as a storyline, as reality. And once that switch flips, the rest of the league has to adjust. But individual growth alone doesn't turn a franchise around this quickly. The next piece explains why this surge didn't stall and why it actually accelerated. The real shift didn't show up in highlight reels. It showed up in how defenses stopped calling games. Early in the season, coordinators tested Drake May the same way they test every young quarterback: heat him up, disguise pressure, force quick decisions. The assumption was simple: make it fast, make it loud, and cracks will appear. They didn't. Reports claim May's efficiency against blitz looks jumped sharply as the weeks went on, not incrementally, noticeably. He stopped guessing. He started punishing. Extra rushers didn't speed him up anymore, they simplified the picture. When defenses sent pressure, he took what was given. When they hesitated, he went over the top. That's the kind of adjustment that flips game plans midweek. What really has coordinators uneasy is how little chaos affects him. When the pocket caves, he doesn't drift into trouble or force hero throws. He slides. He resets his base. He throws on the move with balance. Those are habits you usually see in veterans who have already been burned enough times to learn. Seeing it this early is what's raising eyebrows. And it's not just between the 20s. In the red zone, where young quarterbacks often rush reads and squeeze throws, May's decision-making has tightened. Windows are cleaner. Timing is sharper. Plays that used to end in field goals are ending in 6. Defenses can't just sit in too high shells and wait him out anymore, because patience doesn't work if the quarterback is willing to take singles all the way down the field. Former quarterbacks on TV have started hinting at something bigger. Not hype, pattern recognition. The calm, the reset, the willingness to punish hesitation. Those are MVP traits when they stack across a season. And while nobody's handing out awards in October, the conversation has already shifted from promising to problem. This is where preparation starts to change league-wide. When defensive coordinators don't trust their disguises, they simplify. When they simplify, offenses dictate. And when an offense dictates, it's no longer reacting, it's hunting. That's what's happening quietly. Opponents aren't asking how to confuse May anymore. They're asking how to survive him without breaking structure. And that's a dangerous place to be, especially late in the year. But the moment that really altered perception didn't come from a blitz pickup or a red zone throw. It came from a single win that made everything feel different. There's always a moment when belief changes shape. Not hope, not optimism, real belief. For New England, that moment came the night Drake May won a playoff game at just 23 years old, younger than anyone who had ever done it at quarterback in franchise history, even younger than the name Patriots fans still whisper without realizing it. That win didn't feel fluky, it didn't feel borrowed, it felt earned. What mattered most wasn't the stat line, it was the tone, the way the offense moved with purpose. The way third downs didn't feel like coin flips. The way late-game possessions felt controlled instead of desperate. That's when the emotion in the building shifted from maybe to we expect this. And expectation is dangerous for opponents. When a quarterback believes he's the best player on the field, it changes how everyone else behaves. Receivers stop rushing routes. Linemen finish plays with conviction. Coaches call games more aggressively because they trust what's under center. Confidence compounds fast when it's reinforced by results. That's what fans started to feel again. Not nostalgia, not chasing the past, something new forming that just happened to feel familiar. The stadium energy changed. Road games stopped feeling fragile. Late-game drives stopped feeling like survival and started feeling like opportunity. Around the league, the reaction was subtle but telling. Analysts stopped framing the Patriots as a fun story. The language shifted. Tough out. Annoying matchup. Nobody wants to see them late. Those are the phrases that show up right before teams stop being underestimated. That playoff win also did something else. It removed the training wheels. Drake May wasn't playing with house money anymore. He was playing with expectation from fans, from teammates, from opponents. And instead of shrinking under it, he leaned in. That's the part that sticks. Young quarterbacks are supposed to wobble when the stage gets bigger. He didn't. He looked comfortable, calm, like this was where he was supposed to be. And once that happens, there's no going back to being treated like a project. Because belief, once earned, doesn't disappear. But belief alone doesn't turn a team into a contender. The real acceleration happened when the culture around him locked into place. The quarterback jump grabbed headlines, but the real transformation started the moment Mike Vrabel walked into the building. This wasn't a cosmetic change. It wasn't about slogans, hype videos, or motivational quotes on the wall. It was about standards and enforcing them without exception. Players noticed it immediately. Meetings became sharper, shorter, more demanding. There was no ambiguity about roles anymore. You either did your job or you heard about it. Not later, not privately weeks down the line, immediately. And that clarity did something important for a young roster. It removed confusion. Vrabel didn't try to be everyone's friend. He didn't care about reputation or contract size. As reports claim, if you missed an assignment, it got addressed. If effort dipped, it got called out. Accountability wasn't emotional. It was routine. That's how trust gets built fast. What really changed was the focus on situational football. Third and short, 2-minute drills, red zone execution, clock management. These weren't afterthoughts anymore. They became daily priorities. Players have said they practice late-game scenarios constantly, so when those moments show up on Sundays, they don't feel special. They feel familiar. That's a championship trait. Vrabel also bridged something teams often struggle with, the mental and physical sides of the game. Toughness wasn't just preached, it was explained. Defensive players weren't just told where to line up, but why their assignment mattered in the bigger picture. Offensive linemen started talking about finishing blocks again, not just occupying space. That edge returned. Around the league, scouts started using a specific word when talking about New England. Annoying. Not flashy, not explosive. Annoying. The kind of team that drains you. The kind that makes mistakes costly. The kind that doesn't beat itself and forces you to earn everything. That reputation doesn't come from talent alone, it comes from structure. And that structure unlocked Drake May even further. When the quarterback knows the defense will hold. When he trusts the plan late in games. When situational football is second nature, the offense stops pressing. It starts dictating. That's why this surge didn't stall. It accelerated. Because when elite quarterback play collides with real structure, teams stop looking promising and start looking dangerous. And the next reason opponents are nervous has nothing to do with the quarterback at all. Every contender reaches the same checkpoint eventually. December hits, January tightens, and the question becomes simple. Can you stop the run when everything else breaks down? That's where New England quietly separated itself. Opposing coordinators keep coming in with the same plan. Establish the run, control tempo, keep Drake May on the sideline, and for a quarter or two they try. Then the lanes disappear. Gaps close faster than expected. Running backs start bouncing sideways instead of downhill. By halftime, most teams are already abandoning what they wanted to be. This front doesn't just tackle, it swarms. What makes it dangerous isn't one star chasing stats. It's discipline. Defensive linemen control blocks instead of freelancing. Linebackers read quickly and fill with confidence. Everyone trusts the man next to them to be where he's supposed to be. That kind of cohesion turns solid units into suffocating ones. Late in games, it gets worse for opponents. When teams want to grind clock and protect leads, New England gets stronger. Drives that should end with first downs turn into punts. Field position flips. Pressure slides back onto quarterbacks who are hopping to shorten the game, not expand it. That's playoff football. Cold weather, tight margins, one-dimensional offenses. This is where finesse fades and structure wins. Analysts have already started pointing out how physical fronts like this expose teams built on timing and rhythm. When the run never forces extra bodies into the box, play action loses its teeth. And once that happens, the entire offense shrinks. The biggest benefit shows up on the other side of the ball. This defense protects the quarterback without needing him to play hero every drive. When tempo is controlled and mistakes are rare, the offense can stay patient. No forcing throws, no chasing points, just execution. As reports claim, New England is comfortable winning ugly. 24-20, 2017. Games where nothing comes easy and every mistake matters. That versatility is what scares people inside the league. Opponents can't dictate style, they have to react. And when a team can survive chaos, impose physicality, and still hand the ball back to a quarterback playing with confidence, that's when something shifts. Because once the run game is erased, everything else starts falling into place. And the next piece of this puzzle makes life even harder for anyone trying to throw their way back into the game. Once teams realize they can't run, the plan usually flips fast. Spread the field, throw early, take quick wins underneath and hope something breaks loose. Against New England, that adjustment hasn't gone the way opponents expect. Because this secondary doesn't wait. Corners challenge routes at the line. Timing gets disrupted before it can even develop. Quarterbacks hesitate for half a beat longer than they want to, and in this league, half a beat is everything. Windows close, progressions stall, and suddenly the pass rush doesn't need to win instantly, it just needs to arrive. What separates this group isn't just coverage ability, it's confidence. They're comfortable playing man, comfortable playing zone, comfortable disguising looks without tipping anything pre-snap. That versatility forces quarterbacks to think twice before trusting what they see, and thinking twice is how mistakes happen. As reports claim, opposing quarterbacks are already adjusting protections and route concepts before the snap because they don't trust the picture. That mental pressure builds over 4 quarters. Even elite receivers get frustrated when separation disappears and short throws don't turn into easy yards. And this group tackles. That detail matters more than people realize. Screens don't pop. Checkdowns don't turn into chunk gains. Yards after catch dry up. Offenses are forced to string together long, mistake-free drives instead of relying on quick strikes. The longer the drive, the more chances something goes wrong. In playoff games, that's deadly. This kind of secondary also unlocks everything else. When corners hold up one-on-one, coverage can tilt. Pressure packages become more creative. Safeties can disguise instead of babysit. The defense stops reacting and starts dictating. Around the league, there's already quiet talk about matchups. Teams built around explosive passing games don't love the look of New England on paper. Not because of one superstar, but because of how complete the structure feels. When every level of the defense complements the others, the margin for error disappears fast. And when quarterbacks start pressing, trying to force throws that aren't there, the game tilts. Momentum swings. Short fields appear. And suddenly the Patriots are playing the kind of football they want to play. Put simply, this secondary doesn't just defend passes. It steals patience. It forces offenses to abandon rhythm and play uncomfortable football. And when you combine that with a quarterback who's calm, a coach who demands discipline, and a defense that refuses to bend, the picture becomes harder to ignore. Because at this point, it's no longer about individual pieces. It's about what they're becoming together. This is the stage where narratives usually flip quietly before the headlines catch up. Around the league, the language has changed. Not publicly, not on TV panels yet, but behind closed doors, the tone is different. Reports suggest executives and coordinators aren't asking if New England is legit anymore. They're asking when everyone else is going to notice. The word that keeps coming up isn't flashy or dominant, it's problem. The Patriots don't overwhelm you with gimmicks. They don't rely on perfect conditions. They don't need shootouts to feel comfortable. They win with structure, discipline, and patience, the exact traits that translate when games tighten and margins disappear. That's why teams don't want to see them late in the year. Not because they're unbeatable, but because they force you to play clean football for 4 quarters. And very few teams can do that consistently. What really stands out is how intentional this roster feels. It's not top-heavy. It's not built around one weakness being masked by one superstar. Every unit supports the next. When the defense controls tempo, the offense doesn't press. When the offense scores, the defense responds with composure. That balance is rare, and it doesn't happen by accident. Momentum is compounding inside the building. Players trust the system. Coaches trust the players. That trust changes how teams respond to adversity. Missed call, reset. Bad series, move on. No panic, no finger pointing. That emotional stability is usually the last piece contenders find, and it looks like New England found it faster than expected. Opponents feel it too. You can see it in how game plans shift midweek. Extra emphasis on ball security. Conservative decisions creeping in earlier than usual. When teams start adjusting how they want to play just to survive, the advantage is already leaning one way. And that's the danger. Because teams that believe in themselves don't need constant validation. They don't need hype cycles. They just keep stacking clean football until the standings tell the story for them. That's how real contenders emerge, quietly, then suddenly. Which brings everything back to the uncomfortable truth forming around the league. The Patriots don't look like a rebuilding team anymore. They don't even look like a surprise. They look like a team that's ahead of schedule and perfectly fine letting everyone else figure that out the hard way exactly why it matters. This isn't built on viral moments, hot takes, or early season buzz. It's built on things that last when everything tightens up. Structure, discipline, balance, belief. A quarterback who doesn't flinch when pressure rises. A head coach who enforces standards instead of selling hope. A defense that controls how games are played, not just how they're scored. That combination doesn't show up overnight, and it doesn't disappear when conditions get ugly. That's why the Super Bowl talk doesn't sound crazy anymore. It sounds premature to some, uncomfortable to others, but not irrational. Teams that win in January don't rely on perfect scripts. They survive chaos, force mistakes, and stay steady when momentum swings. The Patriots aren't chasing their past. They're building something new with the same fundamentals that made them dangerous before. And when a team stops hopping and starts expecting, the rest of the league usually realizes it one step too late. This doesn't feel like hype. It feels like the beginning of a problem.